Thank you for being on time, and thank Aaron and Buzz for setting this all up. I really admire these two very much. And as I was watching you come in, I was reminded of why I do this, and I want you all to be able to survive a disaster and do it as effortlessly as possible. I won't be here when the disaster hits, so it's basically up to you. And I was thinking, as an administrator of this facility, and I really love this facility, it would be a selling point to say you have a disaster plan, and that if a disaster were to hit, you're going to throw a 3-week party out here on the lawn and take care of everybody. And I think that'd be a wonderful selling point, and I think it would reduce your stress level. So the whole idea of this, my talk, is to reduce your stress level and make you more comfortable regarding disaster preparedness. So when I give talks, I call it the joy, power, and magic of disaster preparedness. There's incredible benefits to preparing yourself, because if you're going to prepare yourself, you're going to prepare the person sitting next to you as well, because that's the person that might pull you out of some rubble if need be. So that means you have to talk with people and share with people, and maybe even your neighbors. So disaster preparedness really opens up a lot. I would not have been here if it wasn't for disaster preparedness. So it's given me, one, great joy, because I love hanging around you guys, and there's power and there's magic in it. Things begin to happen with disaster preparedness. So I'm the leader of DP for VP, Disaster Preparedness for Vulnerable Populations. And I have an asterisk there. What we mean by vulnerable population is anyone not prepared. It doesn't mean that you can't be prepared if you're in a walker or in a wheelchair or whatever, as long as you and your team and your neighbors know what's going on and what your medications are and what your needs are. You can be really prepared. An athlete, an Olympic athlete, might be vulnerable out on the highway without food and water in the car when a disaster strikes. So it just depends on how prepared you are or not. So the mission of, I'll talk a little bit more about DP for VP. Buzz comes, Aaron comes, Office of Emergency Services, American Red Cross, a bunch of agencies, and we all go to it voluntarily because we want as many people to survive a disaster as possible. The mission of DP for VP is to awaken in each of us the necessity, the will, and the commitment to act for individual and communal self-sufficiency in the event of a disaster. Is that clear? Do you want me to repeat it? No. Okay. I'm not going to talk about anything you don't know already. How many people know that California has earthquakes? How many people know that Rogers Fault goes maybe very close here? So you know this. What I would like to do is awaken within you the feeling of disaster preparedness, because your thoughts about it don't necessarily make you move. The thoughts about a disaster might throw you into, you refuse to admit that it's there. You might deny it. You might avoid it. You'll do anything you can to move around disaster preparedness. It's not going to happen until later. So, my history is I started off working with developmentally disabled people at Old Adobe Developmental Services in Petaluma. And I went to a talk like this, and I didn't want to go because I knew that the American Red Cross was going to take care of all our people. I know. I actually thought that, though. And we have 2,000 developmentally disabled people in Sonoma County. Mentally retarded, autism, cerebral palsy, and epilepsy. So the speaker said, well, why don't you go talk to the American Red Cross? And so I did. and it was the American Red Cross in Santa Rosa. And so I said, well, you're ready to take care of our 2,000 people in case of a disaster. And she said, well, what are they like? And I began describing retarded, autism, epilepsy, and all sorts of things. And can you hear me okay? Somewhat? Okay. Please speak up if you can't hear me. So what happened was her eyes got bigger and bigger and bigger and said, no, it's your responsibility to take care of your people you serve. So that was quite a shock to me. So I got real interested and invited myself to a number of meetings and conferences and trainings. And I would go to people during the break time and ask them who's responsible for people with special needs. I went to the Office of Emergency Services and asked that question, and he kind of smiled at me and said, well, everyone's responsible and nobody is. And then I went to FEMA and FEMA training and asked the same question during a break. I always go during a break because people are more honest. That's a tip. You come to me during a break and I'll be more honest with you. Hi there. American Red Cross just arrived. Okay. Sure. That's okay. Where was it? FEMA training. Oh, so I asked the FEMA trainer who's responsible for people with special needs, and he said, well, it's a whole. And this was before Katrina. So I organized a number of meetings with legislators and legislative aides and stuff like that to really try to bring this out into the open. But it's difficult going. And why is it so difficult going is one of the things I want to say. Well, I want to go through this. So that's my history, and we talked a little bit about DP for VP. My vision is that when a disaster hits, you guys are going to know exactly what to do. You're going to have your medication ready to go. You're going to have your prescriptions ready to go. You're going to be cooking hot dogs out here. You'll have guitars. Rose has a ham radio, and she'll be talking to the other people with ham radios. And you'll have everything all organized, and you'll be very relaxed and calm during a very stressful time for the majority of Californians, or Northern Californians, if it happens here. So that's my vision. And what?
She was making a comment, and I said it was possible.
I said I doubt if I'd be calm.
Oh, okay, but would you be calmer if you knew you could go out here and eat, and you had a place to sleep, and everything was all sorted out for you ahead of time?
Probably.
And you knew what, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my job today, is to not have you think about disaster preparedness, but have you feel about disaster preparedness. What does it feel like to be prepared, and what does it feel like not to be prepared? And I think you know the difference of the two. So it's your feeling that's going to make you begin to organize your facility, and not necessarily your knowledge, because the knowledge you already have. And why do I do this? If I can save one person's life, one person, if I can reduce your stress just a little bit, it's well worth the time and effort. So I do it because I love people. And I think I'm sure that you know within yourself that you would you're the same way. You do it because you love people. You will want to do it because you love people. You'll do it because there's your family members. You would like your family members to survive a disaster. You'd like each other to survive a disaster, etc., etc., etc. And your neighbors. Why don't we act on what we know to be true? So why is it we know there's going to be earthquakes?